talking to William Brock, this gentleman to my right. And we were having the conversation. As I tell everybody, I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer. And I'm always fascinated at people's stories and their lives. And he and I were talking, and particularly we were talking about his story, which we will obviously talk about during this interview. And he started telling me about this place that we're in now, and some of the people you will meet as we develop this project. And he started telling me about these other guys that he knows, where he comes. This, where we are right now, is a building. It's called New Generations. And I think that's important. The name is very important. And he started telling me, oh, the guys did this, and telling me about the daily activities or weekly or whatever. And I said to myself, I said, you know, there are a group of people, every time I turn on the TV, that nobody ever interviews, nobody ever talks to about their lives, their losses, their victories. I mean, they're pretty much ignored in society, in the media. Most of the time you see black men in the media, it's sports, it's sports, it's sports. Or it's connected to a 48-hour show, or a lot of times a lot of criminality involved. Or it's connected to some of those silly talk shows meant to embarrass people and to show them at their lowest. And when I talked to Mr. Brock about his life story and started hearing about the guys that hang out here, it became apparent to me that it was time. It was time to delve into their lives, their histories, their successes, their failures, their, proud moments, their regrets. And so I called my friend here, Michelle Graves, who we have known each other since we were about 12 years old. And I said, you have a TV show. And how about we do this on TV? Instead of me writing a book or writing an article, how about I want to change the media that I tell stories. And she agreed within nanoseconds. She says, that sounds so great. And so as we start these next two interviews, we're going to interview what I consider the foundation of this project, what I consider the foundation of everything we're trying to communicate to the audience, what I consider the foundation of all the things I've learned from these gentlemen. And I think Michelle feels the same way, that it is important that we tell these stories. And these aren't just everyday stories, these are legacy stories. Because the gentlemen we chose are not young boys trying to find their way. They're not middle-aged men having midlife crises. These are seasoned men who've been through some things, who've learned some things, and who have a lot to share. And with that, I want you to start with me where I started, with Mr. William Brock and his story. So, Mr. William Brock, tell us your story. Give us some of your background.
Well, from Cincinnati, born and raised. I've done a little traveling. I've led a rather adventurous type of life, so to say. Attended South Avondale, North Avondale School. When it was totally up there Jewish, when the neighborhood was totally Jewish. Ended up going to Woodward High School, graduated from Withrow, attended some classes at University of Cincinnati, ended up graduating from Wilmington College, it was a bachelor's degree in sociology and psychology. That's pretty much in a nutshell.
Tell us the story about your life and certain twists and turns that it took after you graduated from high school. What did you do?
Well, actually, it started up there when I was in fourth grade at North Avondale Elementary School. I grew up angry, actually. Mm-hmm. Okay. There was a lot of young black males was targeted that failed. Mm-hmm. When you start looking at the dropout rates, it was systematic. Mm-hmm. And on purpose. Yes. Okay. So I recognized it. I've had teachers, principal at North Avenue tell me I had no business being there. But anyway, growing up angry, I had to find a way of releasing that anger. So I found a vehicle, and that was bounty hunting. So I needed to find a vehicle that I can take out my frustrations without consequences. So I done that for a number of years, but I found out also it has its consequences and was very costly. So, from there, ended up in prison. I can't tell any war stories. I will tell you that I was kicked out of prison. I was doing 39 to 75 years in total. But I found that those were some of the best years of my life. Yeah.
So some of the best years of your life took place in prison. We got to talk about that. We got to talk about how did you find your best years there? What happened there?
Well, my mother told me that your blessings are your blessings, only you can receive them and only you can block them.
Yes.
Don't block your blessings and don't block anyone else's blessings. My father told me to humble myself, submit my will to the Most High, and do something for someone else. That's what I did. And behind those two things, they kicked me out. I start teaching, start educating, okay? I started affecting the recidivism rates. Individuals wasn't coming back through those revolving doors, okay? Because my job was to teach them that they did have power, that they're not who they say that they are. And from there, like I say, coming home from there after 10 and a half years, I've known about Mr. Bo Gaither for many, many, many years, but I really had opportunity to spend some time with Mr. Bo Gaither, and that was based upon a friend. His name was Amin. It was Gary Harvey. His name was Amin. Amin is no longer with us, but Amin, before he passed, had told me to come down to the hall, New Generation. Come be with up there, help out Bo Gaither. Good guy. These some good guys down there. So I'm not known to smile a lot. Actually, I wear a scowl. But this is where I come down here and I laugh. I enjoy my life. I enjoy the fellows that be here. They bring something to the table. I think these guys, with their life experience, they bring something to the table. They have things to offer the world. Okay? When I speak about Mr. Bo Gaither, call him Bo, this is an individual that everybody up in this city know him. And he knows them. He knows the generations of families. And they know him.
So when you guys come here, and I think I've asked everybody that question, some of the guys I see, again, I live in Atlanta, I've lived lots of major cities, but a lot of guys that I see go to either the barbershop to feel safe, to have their conversations, to hang out, or a lot of the older guys I see, they might go to a McDonald's first thing in the morning, they're drinking coffee and talking and getting a senior special, and they might be there from 8 until about noon. But you guys come here.
Yes.
Is this a safe space? Is this a welcoming space? Is it a warm space? Is it a brotherhood? It's not like the old club, no girls allowed. Y'all don't have that sign up. But when you come here, what is it? How does it feel?
It's all of that,
Okay.
and even more.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for these guys here. I have an awful lot of respect for them and their lives, and just the fact that they're still standing up.
Yes.
I know something about them, and I know that their stories need to be told. These are individuals that people in the neighborhoods, they know these people. They know these individuals. These are individuals that people come down here, they gravitate down here just to sit up there and have a safe place to sometimes just speak, sometimes just to cry.
That's important.
Okay? These are individuals who have had impact on other people's lives, positive inputs. These are very knowledgeable individuals. I know the difference between being smart and being intelligent. I find that Mr. Bo Gaither is one of the smartest guys I know on the planet. Okay?
I definitely agree with that.
Right.
We both agree with that.
So,
yeah.
You know, when I look at new generation, which has a lot to do, from what I understand, it's a family thing. It's a family gathering. You know, there's family connections here. I guess Mr. Gaither can speak more about that than I, but for what I see from the outside, it tells me something about them. Okay? So it humbles me as a person. Okay? Because I know that these are individuals who have helped save individuals' lives. There has been individuals that have come down here that's on the verge of suicide and had to come down here and talk to somebody. That's why new generation is important.
One of the things that you just said, they've saved lives. They've made a difference. Well, you have too. In your Thinking Errors program that you told me about, that you started in the penitentiary, that you now give to young people about thinking errors. And that's been a consistent theme with several of the men that we've talked to. Their influence, their ability to communicate through generations about, choices that you make. The GOAT influence. When we talk to him, how many kids he's influenced who still come up to him as adult men and say, thank you, you helped me. And so you have that in common as well. All of you do. All of the men we've talked to have had that in common in reaching out to the community.
Well, let me say this about this, okay? And as when I speak to people, I always tell them to pay attention to the history that you have lived, okay? Be aware of the history that you've lived. I'm of age, and some of us, or most of us are of some type of age. We have lived through a period that we saw the changes. I can sit there and say that, a lot of them, they run their mouths. They talk and don't know anything about what they're talking about. I have issues with that, okay? When I look at the deteriorations of our neighborhoods and how it happened, when I look at how individuals how things that's right, how nowadays it's wrong, and vice versa. Okay, so when I look at different social programs that they have in place, I have found that those programs are doing people more harm than good. I know the difference between institutional psychology, sociology, opposed to the private sector. Okay. And it's based upon where they get their money at. Okay? So the thing is when I look at these programs, when they have groupings and they tell somebody that says something asinine out their mouth that it's okay, I have issue with that because it's not okay. It's not okay. Stop telling people these things is all right when it's doing nothing but doing them harm. I have issue with that. I have issue when people come and they say things and they want you to validate the lie they're telling. I have issue with that.
Yes.
We have to be strong enough to say, no. It's not what you do, it's how you do what you do. So the thing is even in our communication, it's important up there. It's like, hey, it might not be polite, but the truth is not polite. And it's not going to save you, and that ill thinking is not going to save you from the negative consequences. So a lot of times when people say things, you cannot unhear, you cannot unspeak. Right. So the thing is it's out there in the universe.
One of the things that you and I talked about was prices paid for your choices. And sometimes you're doing things and you're not thinking about the prices. That everything has a cost. Like I said, the cost of the lesson. You get a lesson, you do something, there's some cost involved. And I'm not talking about money cost. I'm talking about losses of whatever.
Well, I know that, as an example, in prison, to come home, they always want you to have remorse for your victims. Okay. I didn't have any remorse for my victims because my victims was in the gang.
Okay.
And every occupation has its occupational hazard. Point blank that. The remorse that I had was for my family.
Good point.
That's because of the decisions that I made. The decisions that I made to live my life a certain way, which placed the burdens upon my family. My family. When I relinquished my responsibility as a son, a brother, as a father, making these bad decisions, I understand the sins of the father. I've watched, because of my decisions to live my life as I chose to, I've watched my kids calling somebody else daddy.
Yeah.
I've watched my belongings being driven and taken control of from others. My father died while I was in prison. Wasn't able to sit there and be there. Big loss, big loss. There's always constant losses, constant losses, constant losses. But there's also constant lessons. I don't care how dark a situation may seem, seek the light. There's always light in it if you seek it.
Yes.
So when I come down here, I see light.
Yes.
I see laughter. I see men getting together, talking crap, but this is what's needed
Right.
to help them keep on living every day and standing up every day. I'm very passionate about that.
One of the things that we have in balancing the stories that we're telling is that we also want to look at your other side, some of the other things that you do, some of your other passions. And I know when you and I were talking, you were telling me how when you were away and incarcerated that you started painting. You already had the talent, but it hadn't been brought out because your time and energies were directed in other things. And so when you said, some of the best years were there, and you discovered your ability to create these incredible art pieces, I want you to talk about that, and then we're going to show some of your work as well and share it.
My father told me when I got locked up that you can make a life for yourself anywhere. Okay?
That's power.
It didn't make no sense for me to be locked inside of a cell. Okay, even though that was the decision I made, but it still didn't make any sense to me. So I had to do certain things to make sure I wasn't constantly locked up. So I done certain things. I stayed busy educating myself, educating others. So it just gave me an opportunity to sit up there and started the art league, okay, at Lebanon. We had some art shows, able to sell some of their work, and people would come from the outside, things like that. We did that type of thing. Also, the Thinking Era program was originally started by the Quakers, and they was allowed to come into the penitentiary, and they had some type of friends program, and it also involved a Thinking Eras program. That's where I took that Thinking Eras program and developed it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and since used it, have taught it different places, things like that. But I do find, as when it comes down to me being involved in different programs, I have certain oppositions to it simply because I know with that type of thing you need a focused audience. You have no focus. I don't care what kind of group you have, you're not going to have a focused audience, because if there's issues, once they get out of your presence, they go back to their same distracted life. Okay? So they don't retain certain things. So mostly it's going to be a waste of your time and breath. You need a focused audience. How do you get a focused audience? There's different ways of doing that.
One of the things we talked about with some of the other gentlemen was, like I said, nowadays the big word is, I'm an influencer. But many of you guys have been influencers, and even though you weren't called that in all your lives, you've influenced people, good or bad. But everybody's an influencer. Everybody can
right.
be an
That's right.
influencer. But it's what you choose to do with the influence that you have and who you choose to do it with.
Exactly.
And in this day and time where the young people have so many distractions, so many other choices, and what I'm hearing you say is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that when you go out to some of the young men and you're talking to them, keeping their attention, and then unlike the GOAT who, 20, 30, 40 years later, people are still coming up to him, could you possibly see that happening, with the younger people now?
Not in that way.
Okay.
Because I
And
think
what?
that, first of all, I believe that, first of all, you have to get somebody's attention. Okay? People talk about our youth. I don't talk about our youth. I talk about the parents,
Oh.
the grandparents, and the great-grandparents, because they're the ones who started the mess. See, it was in the late 60s when females said, I'm not going to raise my kids the way mama and daddy raised us. Guys was busy distracted with the heroin that was poured into our communities, with the money. It was usually heroin for a reason. Heroin is physically addictive. Cocaine, psychological. They needed something in the community that will break the community down as it did. Back then, in those days, it was nothing for somebody to sit up there and like, hey, just drop an overdosed person in front of the hospital or find them in a garbage can or in a dumpster, things of this nature. It was not an unusual thing.
Yes.
Okay? Men lost focus. We lost focus because of our distractions. Money. We lost focus. When we were coming up, there was a thing that was called pulling one's coattail. They would even tell you the right way even to do wrong.
Yes.
There was responsibilities that was there in the even in the communications.
Okay.
That's been since lost because nowadays you got a bunch of dummies talking to dummies.
Interesting. One term you used when we were talking, you said there are 3 generations of goofiness.
Yes, there is. It's 3, almost 4 generations of goofiness, and as I just spoke about,
Yes.
that's what I call it, how we got here, and how we got here. It's not no mystery.
Do you see any way out? How we get out of this? How we bring our kids, our grandkids, our future generation back into some semblance, and how we bring, really beyond the kids, how we bring, as you said, the parents, parenting aspect of it.
Well, it's very simple. It's very simple. Discipline. If you don't have no discipline in your home, okay, you don't even know what's going on inside your home most of the time. Everybody got these cell phones. So you got all these things on the outside influencing the inside of your home. And you have no control over it. You don't even know what's going on inside your home. Parents are not shaking their homes down. If you want up there, stop some of this stuff, find some of these guns and all this, shake your homes down.
Yeah.
Stop up there telling these kids that it's okay. That they have, no, they didn't buy the house.
Right.
They ain't paying for nothing.
Yeah.
Parents need to start being parents. Stop saying okay when it's not okay. And then you want to sit up here and see your kids over in jail, dead, all of this kind of crap, because you made a decision to say okay. When they closed down the truant offices, that's when they started 241 kids. Prior to that, you didn't see kids roaming the streets during school hours. What happened? Why did that happen? It was all part of the breakdown of the communities. So therefore, here we are today. The lack of disciplines.
So let's look at some of your artwork and just take a couple of the pieces and tell us what your influence was, or what, because your pictures are very colorful. You said you didn't do colors, you do them extremely well.
When it comes down to my artwork, I can tell through my artwork what period of time by the colors that I use in my artwork. If it was a dark period in my life or not. I can also tell when things have lightened up. I can see it in the colors that I utilize. I know what colors do for you. If we start looking around us, we'll start seeing more grays in our buildings, in our color palettes, in our homes. There's a reason why. It makes you sit. Subdued colors. When you wear red, orange, vibrant colors, you're going to feel a little more peppy in your step, stuff like that. But that's good.
It is great. So, what do you want your legacy to be, Mr. Brock? How do you see your legacy?
Well, that's up for interpretation from individuals who see me, who know anything about me. Been a good guy, bad guy, just a human being.
Right.
Like I say, been a lot of things. But I'm also referred to as I'm a responsible bachelor. I'm a responsible bachelor. And I live on that every day, just being responsible,
Okay.
being a responsible man.
In putting together this project, it became apparent that we had to explore relationships that African American men have. And one of the relationships that I researched, again, trying to see what other venues it's been explored in, was an uncle and a nephew. Very seldom, are these people spoken to about their relationships. And the most prominent uncle and nephew relationship over the last few years, or over the years, was Uncle Phil and the Fresh Prince. It was a comedy. And they played off of each other just as that. But what we're trying to do today, and with this project, is to talk about the serious side of relationships. The relationships that don't get talked about, how an uncle can influence or mentor a nephew, and how a nephew can feel comfortable enough to go to an uncle or groups of uncles in our families. And so in this discussion, we're going to talk about all of that and how important it is foundationally, how important it is to the community. A lot of times, young men, young African American men will see older men and say, "Hi, Unc." It's very common, "Hi, Unc." They refer to a lot of older men as Unc or Uncle. And again, that's a whole nother level in our community that's never been explored, and as far as my research shows, and bears some speaking to. So in this interview, I'm interviewing William Brock and his nephew, Msontai Brock. And I want them to start talking about their foundation. Msontai is a Marine veteran, served in Desert Storm. And William Brock is a veteran, a Marine veteran as well. So William, why don't you start talking about the foundation of you and Msontai?
Well, the foundation starts with our lineage, actually. I can speak directly, particularly of my father. His name was William Brock. Very disciplined. Okay, he was also a veteran as well. He was a brother that believed in family. He believed in family. He made sure that our family stood on a foundation that can continue on for generations. Okay. And that started out with first with a spiritual foundation. He made sure that we had some type of spiritual foundation, not a religious foundation, but a spiritual foundation, because he had enough wisdom to know that one day we're going to have to call on God.
Yes.
Okay, that we're going to have to call on God. So with that being that foundation, and having to always look to my father And I didn't always agree with my father. Actually, I didn't agree with my father. I used to resent my father,
Yes.
everything, because he was so disciplined. And to the point that I thought my father was always wrong.
I see.
Always wrong. You know, daddy's wrong. Particularly when it came down to my mom, daddy's wrong. But I didn't know that until I started having some grown man experiences that I know that daddy wasn't wrong.
Okay. Good point.
He lived on certain principles that has allowed me to continue to stand even in the midst of darkness. He told me you can make a life for yourself anywhere. I live by his words every day. I live by my mother's words every day. They were a team and an establishment so that we could be able to grow. They believed in education. We didn't get toys. We got encyclopedias, rector sets, microscopes, chemistry sets. You know, we got all kind of little things. That was educational.
Right.
Everything had to be educational, and that's just pretty much the foundation of my family. A moral standard, a standard of family. One thing my father said to me is, take care of 940 Burton Avenue, which is the family home. And then he said, take care of your mother and each other. I always wondered why he said it in that sequence. And what I come to find out that he was correct. The first thing was make sure that the house stands. That my mother was not to go to no nursing homes. That she's to die in her own home. So I understood, take care of 940 Burton Avenue, take care of your mother, and take care of each other.
Right.
That's our job. That's what we do. We take care of each other. We call each other.
Yes.
We show concern. We show love. We're not always in agreement, but family is first and foundational.
When I interviewed you before, your father, I remember, and it was really, it made me laugh, but I got it. When he said, no matter where I am, how did that saying go?
Okay. All right. Okay. My father was talking to me and my brother. And my mother was there. And he looked at me and my brother. He said, and I'm going to have to sanitize what I'm going to say. He says that y'all don't own nothing in here. Your names ain't on nothing but the birth certificates. And he looked at us long. And then he says, my name is on your birth certificates. Matter of fact, I even own the breath you breathe. And when he said that, he looked at me and my brother and looked over at my mama too. It scared me.
Really? Okay.
Because it was the tone that he utilized and what he said. He said, I don't care if I'm in Timbuktu or how long I'm gone. I run this. I run this. Y'all mine. To this day, I stand on that too. Because there's only one king in the kingdom. I don't share my throne. Period.
Got it.
That comes from my father. Outside influences that misdirects families, we don't do that. We stand on a foundation that's straight and firm.
Great.
That's it.
So, Msontai, in the family you have how many uncles? How many uncles do you have?
I have 4 uncles. Uncle Carl, Uncle Billy, Uncle Daryl, and Uncle Dwayne.
So you were raised with 4 uncles.
Yes.
What did having an uncle mean to you?
Well,
or uncles?
well, now, I appreciate it more because I'm older.
Yes.
But, at the time, it was a given. I had my uncles, my aunts. I love my uncles. And they were all different, you know.
Oh, I want to talk about that. The
But even though they were in the
differences.
same household,
Yes.
it was different aspects of them,
Okay.
My Uncle Carl he went a certain route in life, right?
Okay.
And then there were things that how he had lived, I would learn what to do and not to do. But I still looked up to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I looked up to my Uncle Billy, because I just thought he was the coolest thing since ice. you know, how he walked, how he carried himself. It was. I liked it. There were certain things I learned from him as far as what to do, not to do. My Uncle Daryl, he was heavily into his martial arts, and when I was younger, he used to bring me with him, and I enjoyed martial arts, but not as much as he enjoyed it.
Got it.
Because I didn't like getting hit in the face and things like that. It was during a test that got my lip busted, and I was just like, But he took his time out to spend with me. And my Uncle Dwayne, he's just, I do believe he may be 12 years older than me or something like that. But
Okay.
he was.
Yeah.
He's a character in his own right. Like all my uncles are characters in their own right. And they've actually chosen their path, in life, and
Absolutely.
tried to make the best of it. But my Uncle Dwayne, we spent a lot of time.
How
He
was
taught me
your-
things about
I'm sorry.
wrestling.
Talk about wrestling?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he wrestled with me a lot, like every day. He would just torment because that was his job.
Okay, so between the wrestling and the martial arts, which one did you prefer, or did you?
It was all different because it was different aspects of it. I loved being around my uncles because I could learn from them, and I would sit and watch them and observe them, and just,
And they were able, again, I think one of the key things I heard you say, spending time with them individually
Right.
or collectively. Talk to me a minute about your grandfather and his influence.
my grandfather, to me, I would always consider him like my father.
Okay.
I didn't see him smile much. He never smiled much. But my grandfather spent a lot of time with me. He always took me to church. I would always go over his house. At the particular time I was coming up, he was not residing at 940 Burton.
Okay.
But you wouldn't know that he was not there because he was always there.
Got it.
He was always there. His presence was always there. His rules still applied. He was there every day. He took my grandmother to work every day.
Even if he was in Timbuktu. he
Right,
was there.
yeah. He was there every day.
I got you.
I saw my grandfather every day. Because after school I would go over there because the school was Burton School was right around the corner.
Okay.
And I saw my grandfather every day, and he was very instrumental in my upbringing. My grandfather was the type of person where he had wisdom and forethought to see things down the future.
Oh, interesting.
So, for example, if Kroger's or Thriftway or IGA at the time had a sale on something, he would cut out the coupons and we would walk in that store maybe 30 to 50 times,
Wow.
getting the deals and stocking up.
For whatever.
Right.
And it was it was a significant number of you all in the house with brothers, sisters, cousins, all gathering around the grandparents.
Well, during the holidays, when I was born, I was the second grandchild.
Oh,
you know.
okay.
I probably spent more time with my grandparents than everybody else over at 940 Burton. So, for me, but for holidays and things like that, everyone was always required to be there, and that's really something that I miss, like on July 4th and things like
Wow.
that. And I wasn't allowed to eat meat growing up.
Okay. So
My grandfather he would sneak me a hot dog. He would say, "Don't say anything," or a little piece of chicken and things like that. But being with his family was very important.
Absolutely.
My grandparents were probably the most influential people in my life,
That's important.
besides my mother.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. That's
because
important.
I saw them every day. Growing up every day. Like even though I don't live at 940 Burton, my registered address has always been 940 Burton.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter where I went. And
That's a solid foundation. I mean, nowadays or presently, a lot of children don't know their grandparents, aren't being raised in I always say the village, the village where you have the elders, and then you have your parents, and then you have your contemporary cousins, and the whole village becomes so foundational for you to have a representative. Again, building the network of relationships in the family, and like you said, take something good from each one and learn lessons from others. And what do you think about this whole influencer society now, in terms of influencing the next generation?
well, I think the influence, since I'm 52, the influencer, society, to me it's kind of weird because I just don't get it.
A lot of
But
people don't.
right,
A lot
I
of
don't
people
get it.
don't get it. I
Yeah,
don't get it.
I don't get it. But I do try to have a good influence on my son.
Okay, you
My-
have a son.
Right.
Okay.
My nieces and nephews,
Okay.
my younger cousins. Because my grandparents had a great influence on me, a positive influence. There was certain sayings they would always have that it still rings true today.
So when you decided to go into the Marines, were you influenced by the fact that your uncle had gone into the Marines, or that your grandfather had served, that your family had a history of men serving?
No.
Okay, so what made you say, I want to go into the Marines?
Actually, at that time, I didn't know anyone was in the military.
Oh, okay.
Like not even my stepfather. I didn't even know he was in Vietnam. My purpose for going to the Marines at that particular time was because I was graduating high school, and then we were living out in Georgetown, Ohio,
Okay.
on a farm, and it was like, well, I no longer want to be here. What can I do? Okay, what should I do? So, the Army guy walked in. He was okay. The Navy guy walked in. Air Force guy. When the Marine guy had walked in, it was the way he strutted in.
Okay.
It was just, I was impressed by him.
Confidence.
He
The
was-
Marines, simplify.
Yeah, it was just the way that he strutted in. He walked in there and how he presented himself to us. And then I was like, that's what I want to do after high school.
Okay.
Yeah, but once I got down there, it was I did my 4 years. It was a successful 4 years.
Okay.
I can honestly say that on paper, it was a very successful 4 years. But it was like, I'm
So
gonna
when
do
you
my
were
4
in
years.
Desert
And
Storm, where were you? In which country?
we were in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, Saudi. Okay.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
You had a comment?
His dad was also a Marine.
Okay. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. So just that man strutting in with the confidence
Yes.
of the Marines, because you said, I like how you said that. You said the Navy guy walked in, the Army guy walked in, the Marine guy strutted in.
Yeah, I was upset.
And that gave you a whole different sense of I mean, they gave you like, yeah, I want to be like him.
Yeah, right. Like people ask me about it all the time, and I really don't like to discuss it too much because, a lot of younger guys may want to ask my input
Right.
on if they should go. I express my experiences to them. I said it's really not for everybody because it's going to make you more of what you are.
Oh.
If you have self-discipline, you're going to be fine. If you don't have self-discipline, it's not really anything that they can try to teach you and show you. But if it's not in you,
Right.
you're just going to wind up hurting yourself and getting a dishonorable discharge or things like that because you don't have discipline to be where you're supposed to be at a particular time because people are counting on you
Okay. Got it.
just to do your job. So
Your
right.
responsibilities, and that's something you always talk about.
Yes.
How important it is to be responsible.
To be responsible, to show your responsibility. It's actually, that come from a spiritual foundation, which again, my father, his grandfather, which he established. Whatever it is, you have to have a foundation, a spiritual foundation. And that was what was necessary.
What's the best part about being an uncle to your nephews? How many nephews do you have?
I have no idea. I have no idea, but to answer that question, as all of them are different in their own right, in their own way.
Absolutely.
But I would have to admit that I've watched Msontai grow. I remember when he was born.
There you go.
Okay. Actually, I saw him born.
Wow.
I was there when he was born.
Okay.
Okay. I saw him grow up. I saw how he was digested certain things. He's very, very up there intelligent. Very, very, very intelligent. He is a Walden Hills graduate as well. Only thing that I can really say about him is that I'm always impressed. He teaches me things.
Wow.
He teaches me things.
That's
He helps
powerful.
me to keep my balance
That's powerful.
and keeps me reminded as far as family. When I see what he do, how he moves his feet concerning his family is so very, very impressive on how he deals with his son,
Okay.
how he takes care of all of us. He sends out words of care every single day. Every single day he sends out words of care. That is so impressive to me. Just that he does that he's mindful enough. He shows his love for his family. That's the beauty of that.
So Msontai is fulfilling, continuing your family's, your father's legacy. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. He's so much like my daddy.
Oh, do you recognize that you are like your grandfather?
Not really. To me, my mother reminds me of my grandfather. So I guess I'm like, I can agree with that because I'm like my mother. So but there's certain things I like to do. I think in situations, what would my grandfather do?
Oh wow,
right,
that's a good
I
point.
think in situations where my grandfather would do and then what sacrifices he would make, and and he's.
That is solid.
I think about him all the time, and when I have thoughts in my head, I say, what would my grandfather do, or how would he handle this situation? And I'm very grateful to have my grandfather and my grandmother, because to me, that's really my foundation.
Right.
Okay, that's my Adam and Eve, because I don't know anybody beyond that.
Right.
I don't know anybody beyond that.
That's a powerful statement. That they're both your foundation. They're your Adam and Eve. Oh wow, I love that.
Right.
As a writer. In wrapping this up, what would you tell? One of the things that, we hear, we see in society is the devolvement or the uninvolvement of the black family. And you are sitting here, both of you are sitting here saying no to that. Saying, no, that's not our experience. No, that's not what we see. No, that's not how we move. But what we also need to do is to encourage, first of all, like I said, sometimes the media stereotypes things, stereotypes situations. That's so easy to do, rather than do the work, which is what we're doing here, and really talk about it and set examples of how it looks, and how it looks to us. And we're not a minority in this. We're not a minority. I was watching something the other day, and they were doing a commercial. That's what it was, or an advertisement. And in the advertisement, whatever they were selling, on the one side, they had this family. And they were Caucasian, and it was a man, a woman, 2 kids, and that was family. And then on the other side, they had a black female with 2 kids sitting there looking sad, and the family was all nice and happy. And the black female with 2 kids by herself was sitting there looking sad. And people started writing, why? Where's the black father? Where's, all we see is they're not present. And then that's what they're showing us back through advertisement. And I just think it's such a disservice for them to be pushing that and showing that and telling that to the black fathers, to the black grandfathers, to the black uncles, to the black nephews, that that you all aren't present. And so what do we do about that? What do you think we should do about that with our kids as well as in the media?
We have to continue to reach out to our family members, men, women,
Yeah.
my nieces, nephews, my younger cousins. We have to, because they're always looking for guidance. And a lot of times you give them guidance, they may not want to take it at that particular time. They're like, but they do appreciate it. And just because you say something today, okay, they're going to remember it 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line that you took the time, or you spent the time to impart them with wisdom.
Yes.
And they're really going to appreciate that. So you have to continue to pray for them, because one thing, my grandmother and my grandfather were praying individuals. And you have to just continue to give them positive energy and check on them. You got to stay in their pockets. You have to find out what's going on with them. You got to be nosy. Right now, okay, check their social media to see what they're doing. Because now they have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check their stuff to see what they're doing.
Right.
Because they're going to portray a different aspect of themselves for their peers.
Right.
So you gotta say, hey,
Good point.
I saw this. What's going on with this? I'm checking on their grades. And check and see how they're doing socially, because it's just too easy to get in trouble these days. Now you get in trouble, it may affect you forever.
Right.
And when I was coming up, you get caught doing something, okay, it's not a big deal. But now, any little thing could happen.
Any little thing, and this whole going viral, and the things that they're doing, when they put it out there, I think what they don't understand is as soon as you put something on Facebook owns it.
Right.
You no longer
Right.
own your image.
Right.
You no longer own what you put. You can't call Facebook and say, take this down, because it's there forever. It's up in the cloud.
Right.
As you said,
It's there forever.
It's there forever. And the right person, if they go looking for it, if you're looking for a job or looking to get accepted in a college or looking for almost anything, credit or anything, they type in your name, all of you come up. All of you, forever, as you said. And that's something we need to talk to our children about, because they think, I did it in an instant and it's gone in an instant.
Right, yes.
And it's not. So.
One thing that I would like to say is that family is not necessarily always blood.
That's correct.
Family is also built Okay. One thing that there is an interview that has been done with Don Hudson, who happened to be the police officer. We also share nephews.
Okay.
Okay, we share nephews. So the thing is that how families are built in certain kind of ways. Okay, when we talk about the new generation, we get to talk about how the connection of these families are. Brother Nate Tubbs, you know, my grandson and his granddaughter, I believe, graduated together. Okay,
Yes.
so when I look at, you know, the relationships, because the relationship between, you know, Herman Grievous, Don happens to be also a cousin to Bo Gaither.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, all this up there ties off into family.
Family. Yes.
Ties off into family, the family establishment, the family that grows and continues to grow.
Yes.
And kids, young folks have reason to up there call this person Unc.
Yeah.
They have reason because there's foundations, there's things, there's streams that connects
Yes.
us.
Yes.
That's why it's so very, very important. You know, I consider the guys down here also part of my family. I care about them because I'm supposed to care about them. When I look at my nephew, he cares so much about everybody. Everybody. And he does. I think that it's a common thing in our family that the men don't do a lot of smiling and laughing. I think that's pretty common in the family.
Okay.
So, but I think that there's a reason for that.
And that is because your father did.
I think that the sternness
the disciplinary.
that established the foundation, that there's a discipline here,
Right.
and it's not being wavered by fun and games and jokes. That's what's very, very, very important, to be able to grow in a discipline. Regardless of, as my nephew said, as to which direction our nieces, nephews, and cousins, whatever, go, we do the right thing. You tell them the right thing. What they choose to do with that is their choice. But you tell them the right thing. And I didn't say ask them, I said tell them,
Yes, sir.
because it's necessary to direct. You're not asking them to do anything because that gives them their choice to say no and not. You don't have a choice. This is what you do.
Yes.
What you choose to do, that's going to be your responsibility. So when I look at when he went into the Marine Corps, I always wondered why. I always up there wondered, right after high school. But I also understood why. Yes, I know his father died young, at a young age and so forth, but he was also a Marine. He chose to go into the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And so forth, right after high school as well.
So there was a legacy. There was
See,
a legacy.
Exactly.
Even if he didn't know it.
He
was
didn't know
still
it,
acting
yes.
out of legacy.
Exactly.
Wow, that's powerful.
Exactly.
That's powerful. Very powerful.
Okay. So, you know, when I tie those things in, I see the foundation of Power Family.
Very, very powerful. I want to thank both of you. I think this, again, in weaving this cloth, as I call it, making this patchwork quilt out of all the interviews and all the various people we've interviewed, and the commonalities just keep coming through. So I see the thread, but the differences is what makes the quilt. Each panel and each story. And I want to thank you both for joining me on this. And I so appreciate everything you shared. And We'll go on to what's next.
Appreciate you also.
Thank you.
Thank you.